You did everything they told you to do. You worked hard. You saved money. You were responsible. So why does it feel like, after all these years, you haven't actually gotten ahead? Here's the uncomfortable answer almost nobody explains. Saving money, by itself, is not enough to build real financial security, and there's a silent force quietly working against your savings every single year. Today I'll show you what that force is, why responsible savers can still fall behind, and what a complete strategy actually requires. This isn't about discouraging saving. It's about understanding why saving alone was never going to be the whole answer. Let's start with the belief at the center of this, because most of us absorbed it young. We were taught that saving money automatically creates financial security. Save enough and you'll be safe. It sounds obviously true. The challenge is that there's a force quietly working in the background that the simple just save advice never accounts for: inflation. Inflation is the slow, steady rise in the cost of everything over time, and it means the money you save can lose value even while it sits perfectly safe in the bank. As the cost of housing, healthcare, education, food, insurance, and everyday living keeps climbing, money that sits still is quietly falling behind. Here's the trap most people never notice. They focus entirely on how much money they've saved, the number in the account. Very few stop to ask what that money will actually buy in the future. And those are two completely different questions. The number can grow while the buying power shrinks. You can be saving diligently, watching your balance tick upward, and unknowingly losing ground in real terms the entire time. The challenge was never simply to save money. The challenge is to make sure your money keeps pace with the rising cost of life, and that's a different, bigger task than just setting cash aside. Let me make this real with an example. Imagine someone who saved $50,000 10 years ago. At first glance, that sounds like genuine progress. $50,000 sitting safely in the bank. But now look at what happened to the world around that money over those 10 years. The home they wanted to buy may have gone from around $250,000 to $450,000 or more. The rent that was around $1,000 a month may now be $1,800 to $2,000 in many cities. The grocery trip that cost $100 may now cost $140 to $150 for the same cart of food. Healthcare, childcare, insurance, and education costs climbed substantially over that same stretch. Now look at what really happened to that $50,000. The number in the bank account stayed exactly the same, but what that money could actually buy changed dramatically. 10 years ago, it might have been a solid down payment on that $250,000 home. Today, against a $450,000 version of the same home, it's a much smaller piece of the puzzle. The saver didn't lose a single dollar on paper and still lost ground in real life. That's the hidden effect of inflation, and it's why so many people who saved faithfully for years still feel like they're standing still. The point here isn't the exact numbers, it's the principle. Purchasing power changes over time, and money that sits still doesn't keep up with it. This is the part that genuinely surprises people. Many savers believe they're moving forward financially simply because their account balance is growing. The balance going up feels like winning. But if the cost of everything they actually need is rising faster than that balance, their purchasing power, the only thing that really matters, may be shrinking even as the number climbs. That's the cruel illusion at the heart of saving alone. The scoreboard you're watching, the account balance, isn't measuring the thing you actually care about, which is what your money can do for you in the real world. Now, let me be very clear, because this is where people misunderstand the message. The goal here is absolutely not to discourage saving. Saving money is important. It's the foundation of stability, the source of your emergency reserves, the thing that keeps you safe in the short term. Saving is essential. The point is simply that saving alone is not enough to build long-term financial security, because saving protects the number while inflation quietly erodes the value. A complete strategy needs more than a pile of cash that's slowly losing purchasing power. It needs a way to help at least some of your money grow faster than the rising cost of life. So here's the mental shift that fixes this, and it's the most useful idea in the whole video. Your money should have different jobs. Not all of your money should be doing the same thing, because you actually need two different things from it. Some of your money should provide security. That's your emergency fund and your short-term savings. Money whose entire job is to be safe and available the moment you need it. And some of your money should provide growth. Money with a longer time horizon whose job is to grow and outpace inflation over the years, so your future buying power actually expands instead of shrinking. The mistake isn't saving. The mistake is asking all of your money to do the security job, when part of it needed to be doing the growth job all along. This is the difference between saving money and building wealth, and they are not the same thing. Saving is about preserving what you have in the short term. Building wealth is about growing your purchasing power over the long term, so that future, you can actually afford the future. Both matter. A person who only saves is safe today but slowly falling behind tomorrow. A person who only chases growth with no savings is exposed to the first emergency that comes along. Real financial security requires both stability and growth working together. The security money keeping you safe now, and the growth money keeping you ahead later. Financial planning, at its heart, is about getting that balance right. Let me put the human reality on this, because it's not really a story about economics. It's a story about effort that didn't get rewarded the way it should have. Most people who feel stuck financially are doing exactly what they were taught to do. They work hard, they save money, they're responsible with what they have. They followed the instructions faithfully. The problem is that the instructions were incomplete. Very few people were ever taught how inflation affects long-term financial security. So they did the part they knew, saving, and never learned the part that protects them over decades, which is growing purchasing power. It's not a failure of discipline, it's a gap in what they were taught. And that's why this matters so much. The people falling behind aren't the careless ones. They're often the most responsible ones, the diligent savers who did everything right and were quietly let down by an incomplete education. Once you understand that money needs different jobs, that the account balance isn't the real scoreboard, and that purchasing power is what you're actually trying to protect, the whole picture changes. You stop measuring your progress by the number in the account and start measuring it by what that money can do in the world. And you start making sure that at least part of your money is positioned to grow with the future, not get left behind by it. So here's how to think about it going forward. Keep saving. That part was always right. And your security money is the foundation everything rests on. But recognize that a pile of cash slowly losing purchasing power is not the finish line. It's only half the strategy. Give your money different jobs. Let the security money be safe and available. And make sure some of your money has the long-term job of growing, so your future buying power expands instead of eroding. Financial planning isn't just about saving money. It's about preserving and growing what that money can actually buy, over a lifetime. The deeper lesson is this: financial security isn't a number in an account. It's the ability to afford the life you want, now and in the future, no matter how the cost of that life changes. Saving protects you against the short term. Growth protects you against the long term. You need both, working together, with awareness of the silent force that's always pushing against money that sits still. Once you see inflation clearly, and give your money the right jobs, you stop being one of the responsible savers who quietly falls behind, and start being one of the people whose money actually keeps up with the life they're building. Let me go deeper on those real-world examples, because this is where the abstract idea of inflation becomes something you can actually feel. Think about housing first, since it's the biggest expense in most people's lives. A home that cost around $250,000 10 years ago might cost $450,000 or more today. The same house, the same walls, the same neighborhood, nearly doubled in price. The person who saved a $50,000 down payment a decade ago had 20% of that home in hand. Today, that same $50,000 is barely 11% of the new price. They didn't lose money, they lost ground, because the target moved faster than their savings did. Now stack the rest on top. Rent that was around $1,000 a month in many cities is now $1,800 to $2,000. A grocery run that cost $100 now costs $140 to $150 for the same cart. Healthcare, childcare, insurance, education, all climbing, year after year. The saver's bank balance held perfectly still while the entire cost of their life marched upward around it. And here's what makes this so insidious. None of it feels like a loss in the moment. There's no statement that arrives saying your purchasing power dropped 3% this year. The number in your account never goes down. It might even tick up a little from interest, so your brain registers safety and progress. Meanwhile, in the background, quietly, the actual buying power of that money is shrinking. It's a loss with no notification, a slow erosion you only notice years later when you go to buy the thing you were saving for and discover it costs far more than it used to. That's why so many careful savers are blindsided. They were watching the only number their bank ever showed them, and it was the wrong number the whole time. Let me build out the different jobs idea, because it's the practical fix and it deserves to be clear. Imagine dividing your money into two roles. The first role is security. This is your emergency fund and your short-term savings, money whose entire purpose is to be safe, stable, and available the instant you need it. This money should not be exposed to risk because its job isn't to grow. Its job is to be there. The second role is growth, money with a longer time horizon whose job is to expand your purchasing power over the years, to grow faster than the rising cost of life so that you can actually afford the future. The mistake most responsible savers make is assigning all of their money to the first role. They keep everything safe, and in doing so, they leave nothing to do the growth job, which means inflation slowly wins. The fix isn't to stop keeping money safe. It's to recognize that part of your money needed a different assignment all along. This is the real difference between saving money and building wealth, and it's worth stating plainly because the two get blurred constantly. Saving is preservation, keeping what you have intact for the short term. Building wealth is growth, expanding what your money can do over the long term. A person who only saves is safe today and quietly falling behind tomorrow. A person who only chases growth with no savings is exposed to the very first emergency. You need both, and they're not in competition, they're partners. The security money keeps you standing when life knocks. The growth money carries you forward over the decades. Financial planning, at its core, is just getting the balance between those two jobs right for your life. And I want to come back to who this actually affects, because it's not who you'd expect. The people quietly losing this race are usually not the reckless spenders, they're the diligent, responsible savers. They did exactly what they were taught. Work hard, save money, be careful. The instructions just stopped short. Almost no one was ever taught how inflation works on long-term security. So people mastered the saving half and never learned the growth half, then wondered why years of discipline left them feeling stuck. It was never a failure of effort or character. It was a gap in the education, and gaps in education can be closed the moment you become aware of them. Awareness is the whole turning point here. Once you see the silent force working against still money, and once you give your money the right jobs, you stop being the responsible saver who falls behind and start being the planner whose money keeps pace with the life they're building. So let me ask you, when you think about your money right now, is most of it doing the security job, the growth job, or honestly just sitting still losing ground? Tell me in the comments and be honest, because awareness is the first step. If this finally explained why saving for years can still leave you feeling behind, hit like so it reaches another responsible saver who deserves to understand this. And subscribe, because next time we're getting into the hidden cost of waiting and why delaying a financial decision might be the most expensive thing you never realized you were doing.